Alright, Darksiders, just got back from seeing A Quiet Place Part 2 at the Epic Rose. Woo-hoo-hoo! Had my buttermilk fried chicken and my truffle fries. Fantastic. I will say at the outset, of course there will be no spoilers here, this is a very entertaining film, and I gotta start with Millicent Simmons because she is the standout performance in this. This is the girl that is Death in the film. She's so good, man, because for someone that has no dialogue, she carries that character with such gravitas, with such weight, that you feel her power when you watch her in this film. She does a fantastic job throughout this whole movie. Everybody in this is good. All of the performances in this are strong performances. They were fantastic. And let me tell you something else, man, Darksiders. Woo! Gotta turn the hat backwards for this one. The sound design in this is something terrible. Terrible as in good. I mean, it is, boy, oh boy, it is always creating this feeling of ominous, this feeling of threat. Always, no matter what type of scene you're seeing, it always carries this through line, this feeling of threat, this feeling of impending doom all the way through. And then when you add the crispness of it and you add a lot of the jump cuts, and there are plenty of jump cuts in it. I'm gonna tell you, sometime I was like, woo-hoo-hoo, gotta check my Huggies. I think I soiled myself because some of those scenes had me jumping, but that is because the film built such tension all the way through. You just never knew, right, what was going to happen. Excellent job with the sound design. I also thought that the cinematography was really good. Now, here's an interesting thing about A Quiet Place Part 2. You know, I've said before that sometimes in a film, when you have really good world building and you have really good cinematography around that world, John Wick is an example of it, the world becomes a character in and of itself. And that happens in A Quiet Place 2. The world is another character in this movie, and it's creating this atmosphere that's really pulling us into the film. All of this is done successfully through the sound design, through the lighting, through the choice of camera angles. All of that coupled with the performance really does create a very, very high impact world, and that is very effective in this. But there is one problem. The problem with A Quiet Place 2 is that it doesn't have a very strong story. That's the big problem with this. All the stuff I shared with you is absolutely true about this movie, and I think that you will enjoy it. There's no question about that. But when you step back and you look at the story here, it doesn't have a very strong story. In some cases, it feels like it's really just moving from kind of high intensity event to high intensity event. And some things happen in this that really are shocking. There are some things that happen at the beginning of this that really set the stakes high from the beginning. And you think, oh, sneedy up. Like, how are they going to deal with this? Because we're only like 15 minutes in, and now we got this. I don't know how they work this out. How does this happen at the beginning? And they deal with this through the whole film. So they set us up for some things that are really situational, where we want to see how all of this plays out. But then as it unfolds, you're like, man, there's no real powerful story here. Now, the thing is, they give you this thread, right? There's a statement made by one of the actors in this story, and they set something up, but they never follow through on it. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, pursue that. Let's do that. That's interesting. But we don't get anything more from that setup. And I think that that was one of the downfalls of the film, because I think that had we pursued that scenario a little more, I think it would have made for a much stronger story. But I do think that all in all, Quiet Place Part 2 is good. I know it's getting good reviews. I definitely think it is worth going to see. I think as a whole, it's very entertaining. Had some problems with the story, as I just mentioned, but this is something that you want to go check out. Check it out at the iPic Rose if you can.